Hello Internet, I'm Jackie Fox, and today we're going to be talking about the 12 units that we know to be coming to the game as of when I'm recording this. So we have a lot to talk about today. Let's get into it. Defense, hate, single target resistance. It's a pretty good combination. I don't know what to say about... I mean, it's three good effects. This is at least on par with, like, Vega. Okay. Not a lot to write home about. Can counter physical damage by increasing HP 20% from any range. Can reduce any damage taken, same percentage chance, by 30%. This is probably more powerful unless they're doing a lot of damage. And you're a tank, so you're hoping you're reducing their damage. This is probably better. And well, actually, hold up. Wait, let me back up, because this is physical only. But that's his thing. That's gonna be more his thing, so I wasn't really, but technically this would get edged out, I think, in more situations by countering all damage, but you probably don't want to run him into magic, and because of that, even magic reflex isn't particularly great for him. Basic attack is piercing, but based in physical. Okay, fine. Fair enough. So potentially AoE in that it's piercing if, you know, if there's a unit standing here, a unit standing here, and a unit standing here, you can hit all three. You gotta aim for the one in the back to do that though, I think. But that's incredibly impractical. But it does inflict confusion. He is a mage, so he's gonna be running at higher faith. So he has a better chance of landing confusion. This also helps shore him up a bit against magic units, but that's not necessarily a strength, because at least then you're running faith into faith. Any decent modifier for inflicting, and 25 is okay. Any decent modifier from a mage to a mage has a pretty good chance of landing that status if they don't personally resist it. Oh, increased chance of being targeted 12. That's really good for an individual buff. Elemental chain resistance 80. That's very good. Very good. Probably your priority in turn order. Although he can kind of get away with not getting this off for a little bit, but that's going to hurt you a lot more late game. And depending on how fast your team is, that could make your strategy fall apart, or it could work out for you. But I think generally speaking, you want to make sure this gets off really early. But this is also a really good buff as well. Let me... this is the counter skill. 50% physical counter. Reduces damage 30%. That's pretty good. Wait. It comes on a buff that has a lot of other things, so I wasn't expecting a lot out of it, but compared to a lot of unlocked counters recently, neither of these modifiers are particularly high, and it's only physical damage. So I'm not super impressed by that, but let's go back to the buff, because that's just one of the things it does. Defense, general debuff resistance, which is gonna be kind of a blanket resistance to being debuffed, which is pretty powerful. And Shell. Shell's a little bit awkward on him, but you're getting Shell and a chance... Because the counter is stronger than Protect by 5%, but it's a 50-50 chance. So you get a really sturdy, really sturdy magical barrier, and a really risky physical barrier. But it is kind of balanced. And also it does have 20 defense, so you have guaranteed defense there, more or less. I don't know, that's not... It's an odd way to do it, but it's actually relatively balanced. Also, these are kind of hard to counter themselves, whereas you can get rid of shell, you can debuff things, although not as well with this. These are hard to get rid of, so that is a little extra value, but not amazing. Increase healing power. Absorb 30% of damage done after landing. This is really close range. I have a little bit of a concern about him being able to get that off when he needs to, but with such a large modifier, also him breaking out the magic attack, so he does have access to magic attacks. He's not entirely piercing in the main job, which is, I mean, it's good. I don't think you're necessarily going to run into piercing resistance more than magic resistance, but it's good to have options. It's a shame that getting increased healing power, I'm not really seeing anything for him to do with it. Except for this. Okay, so I guess, you know, you can increase your healing power, you can absorb some damage, and then you can go off next turn, get single target resistance, and get some regen with your boosted healing power. Except if you do that, 1, 2, 3, you're actually only going to be boosted for 2 turns of the regen, which is awkward. Suboptimal. I don't think it's too much of an ask to make that effect, considering that lasts for 4 turns. It is not overpowered in any way. The range is moderate. The uses are moderate. The AP... Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong fucking buff. Oof. It is very close range. It does have a decent modifier on it. I will give it that. It's very close range. It does get a lot of casts, but look, you could have... Giving the character a better synergy could have come at the cost of one of these. Like, does he need to use it 4 times? Hopefully not. But I guess it's cool to have a healing skill that you can cast multiple times, and having a large modifier means you might use it more often. But that's an odd... That buff rotation, like, rubs me the wrong way a little bit. And look, I'm not saying he's bad. I am trying to reserve judgment. I'm just saying that I haven't seen the slam dunk yet, is what I'm saying. If there's a slam dunk yet to be revealed, he could be good, but we haven't got to it yet, in my feeling. This is an interesting skill. It does all the dispels after, but these two... yeah, no, those are all probably pretty irrelevant to the damage anyways, except for like spirit. If they buffed their spirit, it would have been better to get that before the damage, but I guess this is okay. Not bad. Reduce counter chance 100%, piercing move, but again, the fates will align before the units will in front of you. But you might hit 2 people with this. Decreases AP by 20. Okay. Don't go crazy now. Give this guy good stuff. Get me excited about him. Alright. That's not terrible, but... And this wouldn't be bad if it were like in his main job or something, but... neither of those are good. Like, they're okay. Let's see what we got here. Unavailable Pain. Classic. Now instant cast. This could be interesting. This is Earth-Rending Pain. So it would have... Oh, shit. So at the furthest it allows you to move, like, what, 1? Okay. I've never really looked at it like that. I guess the movement to target panel really doesn't get you very far, but it gets you closer, and that's good for a tank. Also has the stun move. AoE resistance is probably pretty good on him, especially since he has good native single target, and other things. Another magic damage reduction. It's a pretty good barrier, though. But I just don't think it's his thing. Even with this, like, this makes him more of a serviceable general tank. He's still not going to lean into magic. And... Alright. Red mage. So, he does have a good spirit break here. I'm not going to be mad at that. Actually, this is one of the most flavor appropriate moves for him, because we've had this magic pierce move for such a long time. And nothing else. This is the genesis of his creation. Flavor wise, dispels auto revive, 38 spirit reduction is pretty big. It's also a chaining move with 2 hits. Range is not great. Modifier is not amazing, but you know, 3 casts, 24 AP, not bad. And we already kind of talked about the LB here. So 200 mod, pretty good. It could be a bigger AoE, but he's a tank, he's not DPS. And on that note, he's not necessarily going to be super powerful either. I will say this, okay. He might be worth it for Earth players. If you, well, you probably don't. Like, Earth is kind of lacking for tanks. Like, real, genuine tanks. Other than Moraga, and Moraga has issues getting in front of a lot of Earth units because he's slow and he doesn't have good movement. I mean, look at him. Look at him. He's like the Hulk. Anyways, he could be useful to players. He's not terrible. But generally speaking, if you're looking for a more modern tank that has better rainbow flavor, you're wanting, I mean, right now, Alphonse, but I would even recommend, if you're thinking that, unless you're a Lightning player, in which case, or a Strike player, in which case, go ahead. I would really recommend waiting, and it's not even much longer either, Rafu. Okay. Let's talk about Dia. Charm resistance girl, that's interesting, okay. Magic, AP consumption, accuracy. This is pretty good. Because she is as most non-staff mages are. Like anyone who wields a sword or something like that. They usually have poor starting AP compared to other mages. Generally better than physical units, but they tend to have AP issues, so this balances that out quite well. I'm not sure exactly what else you would want to use. This would definitely have its uses. This could definitely have its uses depending on where she goes, because having initial hate down can be really huge for support units. It can be as important for a support as having initial hate up can be for a tank. Spirit penetration though and accuracy is going to be really good if she ends up being more of a DPS. Let's see what we get. Oh, so we're seeing, this is, yeah, okay. So this reminds me so very much, if it's not exactly the same thing as, no, hers was 50%, wasn't it? Yeah, but that was like with an upgrade. So this is pretty much on par. A little niche, but I like the flavor of her blocking, swords with her magical, I'm sorry, of course. She does that too, for sure. But blocking bullets with her magical katana. Great. So, it looks from that counter like we should be expecting, or we should be thinking about, a unit that deals with ranged units effectively. So magic damage up. Good range, so this is good mid-range. It's probably not going to interrupt her buff pattern necessarily, and it functions as a buff for her, so this can kind of extend her buffing turns. And it gets upgraded to do more damage and have more range. Okay, well this might get a little unfortunate in that it could interrupt her buff pattern, but if you had to have a skill interrupt your buff pattern, one that has a buff on it for you is not the worst way you could go. Shell, and magic resistance. Wait. This... Oh! Oh! She's that kind of magic... Oh! See, I can't read symbols. I can't read the symbols. I thought she was a blade soul. She's whatever they end up calling Sweetheart Miranda's job. So this is the anti-missile magic unit. So once again, I think she's going to probably find more applications in physical. You're going to leave this on, turn this off. Auto revive, AoE resist, pretty cool. Gets rid of that. She's got slash attack resistance penetration, but once again, this isn't a job that is getting slash attack resistance penetration as a passive, so I mean that's a good buff. However, it doesn't get her to 80 like it would for other units, so that's not great. Ooh, doesn't... Okay, as I noted previously, the only thing that doing this before damage is really going to affect is spirit. But it's interesting that it does all of this before damage when that skill we just looked at did a lot of this stuff after. Although when it gets upgraded, it also gets rid of auto restore and shell. So shell and spirit buffs, but not innate spirit. This is going to do some interesting AoE pattern. That's going to be hard to set up against in manual. And also just be kind of interesting as a supplement in auto. Disable. I mean, still wonky AoE, but it's a cool move. Operative. Okay, so operative is physical, so we're probably going to want to discount all of the skills here. Just not... That's a lot of text. This move might be worth it on her. As weird as it seems, it's incredibly close range, so it's not likely she'll use it very often. It does have a pretty decent mod, so it may maybe a little bit do damage. Not a lot though, because it's going to be working off of her attack stat. I mean, dexterity and agility she might not be bad on, but the attack is going to be terrible going into this move. But increased chance, what? Like, this is so confusing because it's already at 100. So like, what do you? How do you? You going to increase it to? It's going to turn off counters. Okay, it's going to decrease their slash resistance by 25. I'm still not sure what this means, but maybe that goes to 65. This happens. This isn't like a chance thing, you know? It's not a status, it's a debuff. It just happens. But it's on an attack. But, okay, so here's the part that actually makes me think this could work, right? 65% chance to inflict poison. She's a magic unit, which means she has high faith, so high chance to inflict status. You might take the hit on this not being a good damage move to get decreased slash resistance, which is going to be good. Turn off counters, good. This is an effective debuff. And inflict poison and maybe do some damage while you're doing it. I don't know if you want to spend your AP on that, but that's actually potentially well suited for a mage, if only for the poison part. This you almost always turn off. If you want to modify her hate... Yeah, I don't like this job. I tried. You are a physical job on a magical unit. I tried really hard to make you make sense. I don't think it's really going to work. And then Rune Knight, this makes more sense. It's at least a magic-based job. This is a cool skill. It's not very powerful, but it absorbs all of the damage that it deals, plus modifiers for healing. They aren't going to increase the damage, but they're going to increase the amount you're healed. And that's a really big magic increase. Really... Oh, the slash attack resistance penetration also now lasts for 3 turns. So... That again wasn't... Where'd you get... 65, 30 AP... 2 hits... I mean... If you're running this to give her an opportunity to heal herself back up, right? It's not really about the slash attack resistance penetration, but it's really unfortunate that this overlaps with a skill that she's probably already using and doesn't stack. Fire killers, potentially. No. No. Sometimes in manual, but probably no. It's not bad, but like, okay. So I think overall for Dia, remember Dia's a 50 cost unit, right? So the fact that she comes pretty close to where Sweetheart Miranda was, who, you know, again, she was kind of underwhelming too, in that we had just come off of a bunch of 100 cost units that we were kind of power scaling ourselves to. But Dia, not bad. Not bad. Definitely not as exciting to review in this context, but I would say the main job was pretty good. She has definite niches that she can work into because of that really strong counter. She counters Setia really well, I guess. But I'm gonna reserve judgment. I feel like she could be really effective, but I'm not familiar with her main job. It seems good. She got good things out of it. They're very similar in terms of their main job. So for a 70 and 50 cost unit to be similar in that many respects is pretty admirable, I'd say. And she's a pretty good 70 cost unit. So I'd say that's pretty good for her. Maybe it's just that like 100 cost unit, 100 cost unit, 100 cost unit, 100 cost unit. It was stiff competition, really. And speaking of 100 cost units, Ice Howlett. Ooh, 15% strike resistance. Let's see, can this boy take a punch? Ooh, he can. So that's going to go up to 30%. Okay. Base 30% strike resistance, while I'm not really sure what to do with that piece of information, is interesting. I haven't seen the strike meta develop yet, and as soon as we get back from maintenance, I will be looking into how my strike team works now that I've got Alphonse up to 115, but let's look at Howlett. So... Wait, what? I don't like that. This is pretty decent, but not great. This is alright. Glad it got upgraded. He can just always dispel haste. He just permanently has dispel haste on everything. That's pretty cool. And again, we're kind of up here on Fuhrer's Wrath. Do I think this is as strong as 2 slots? I'll give it 1.5. It's better than, I would say, like Dialdo's buff that was similar, but not amazing. But getting back up there, it's I would say it's a little bit better than Dialdo's. And we can also get Spirit Penetration 2 and Accuracy. Those aren't bad together. That's probably going to be a good combo with that. Although, if he ends up having anti-magic capabilities, this could come back up. But Agility is always good. So that could compete. Counter magic, counter all. So everything counters magic. So maybe that Spirit is relevant. So magical evasion, not bad.
but not amazing. Like it's good within that niche. It's really good within that niche, but outside of it, it's useless. So is that magic commutation? I don't know. I've never seen anybody use that. I don't think it's very good. Oh, that's auto cure. Okay. Sorry, he doesn't. Wow, those are pretty shit counters for a new 100 cost. All right, let's see some good stuff. So. Remember, first, that he dispels haste on everything he does. So this one, his basic attack can dispel haste and get rid of and inflict slow. So you go from being hasted to having your speed reduced by 50%. That's pretty cool. That combos well. It chains well into. Oh, so he gets a new counter skill. 80% chance to counter physical damage with good range, but you know, very moderate damage, which is fine. That's kind of what you expect with a counter. Slash resistance and magic resistance. 25% on those is good, although those weren't necessarily the notable resistances as far as I remember. So this more evens him out than builds him up towards a particular niche. Also, I mean, yeah. Both of those things could work for him though. 35% general damage reduction barrier for 3 turns. Also, absorbs 30% of damage done for 3 turns. And gives that effects to allies. That's really good. Because you're taking less damage and you're being able to heal back. And while this, like 30% of damage done heal might not be super impactful, outside of that, like it's helpful. It's generally a thing that you want on yourself on other characters. But if you're expecting that to get you all the way back to full health and stuff, you're gonna have to do a lot of damage and hope they don't do a lot back. So combining this with a general shield really makes the idea of being able to heal yourself back up after attacks a lot more attainable. So it's an interesting combination, and increased reaction block rate for 50%. This isn't super powerful even with its upgrade though. It's a shame that the reaction block didn't cover your buddies too, but alright. Magic barrier breaking, 200 mod, good range. Lots of casts, decent AP cost, absorbs 30% of damage done. Does that stack? General question for people who really study JP in the comments. Does that stack with the absorb 30% of damage done? So like it absorbs 60%? Because that definitely makes this a lot easier. I think these two moves could work really well together if that stacks. If it doesn't, it's still okay. It might give you an avenue to turn this off, but I think the barrier is probably pretty impactful for him. I don't think you do want to turn that off. Spell up buffs, haste physical damage. Okay, so again, we have seen this wall of text. Sometimes it's good to review these in batches, even though this is going to be a long video. This is undoubtedly in its part 2 by now. Shotgun style, so this is the second biggest AoE in the game. Decent modifier. Okay. This is interesting. So, being able to decrease slash attack resistance and magic attack resistance penetration, while, as you remember, being able to increase those two things for himself for 25%. Let me look again. Maybe this doesn't even him out. Maybe this... Okay, so that was the second best, but, you know, that would get him to 45% base. Like, you know, you're probably stacking other things in here to make this higher. You can easily get it up more than that. But, like, 45% after buffs and 35% after buffs isn't bad, especially if you can break their penetrations.
It's an interesting way of going about things, and it's a relatively new way of going about things. And on this big of an AoE, I think it's probably pretty impactful. Also, these are the two type of resistance penetrations that you're most often seeing. So this guy actually might be really good at not only covering himself, but also covering for your tank. As we have seen, especially with like how many of them, like every slash unit we've covered so far can get 40 or 80%. Reducing this by 40 is great. It turns off for the Valentine's magic sword job. It just turns off all the slash attack resistance penetration they can possibly get. And for the other more premium units, it removes half of what they could get, or it counteracts their buff. So that's cool. Yeah, I'd say it's really balanced pretty well, and that's a really cool new effect to have on it. Remove all debuffs for self, 200% damage done. Upgrades into decreasing slash resistance, 30% for a target. And then dispels all buffs for self and absorbs 30% of damage done. Once again, if this is another way that he can stack 30% absorb on 30% absorb, then this guy might arguably be better at healing himself than Reagan, even with his reusable threshold heal, which is pretty impressive. And also creates a really dynamic synergy between the two of them to where, like, I'm not saying these guys aren't good with Velis, and they probably are amazing with Velis, in that they are more likely to survive long enough to get to his next heal, even against really significant opposition. But just having so much, like, these guys are, if they didn't beat you, they would wear you down, for sure. Very interesting character. I actually like this buff because of how big it is. That's a pretty decent modifier. It's cool that it's on both of those things. And I think this also kind of plays into, you know, this kind of thing a bit. So interesting. Like, he has supportive capabilities, offensive supportive capabilities, and these big diamond buffs are so good for early game too. Still, this is kind of your basic, almost generic at this point, main sub-job type skill. It doesn't have an AoE, it's got terrible range though. It is 2 hit. Okay, it's just chaining them, fine. It's not terrible, but we're probably gonna find something better. Oh look, it's another way to heal himself. Let's see. Now, you actually don't have a buff that increases your slash attack resistance penetration. However, you do have 40 slash attack resistance penetration in your passive. So, Ice Howlett can hit 80 slash attack resistance penetration, not counting equipment, which would likely get him to 100 if you wanted to set him up that way. With this move. So I think this is actually probably kind of important for him, potentially. We got some wind killer moves. This is exactly the same as we saw on the other Rune Knight that we just looked at. So all the same thoughts there. Holy gives him access to light damage, which could get him around ice resistance if he's running into fire. Okay, just imagine the scenario. I'm not saying it's good, I'm just saying it's possible, right? You've got Ice Slash on defense. They run a fire team at it, and your ice units just start throwing light and fire attacks at them. It's degenerate. All right. He can punch somebody so hard that they that they get real slow. Which usually isn't good for a cleric, but he's actually a physical damage dealer, so this does kind of make sense. Light and dark resistance are okay, but these buffs don't really see play in PvP. Even if you were, just, no. On a casting time buff, this pattern, and no. Not for this little benefit. This is potentially a lot more interesting into certain things, but I think after seeing this, it's pretty easy to make the call that in some situations this might be really interesting for AI modification, but generally speaking, I think you're going to find that this is easily the best sub-job for in a lot of ways, because this brings both synergy with the main job, but also kind of pumping up something that the main job missed, that we would often see on a unit like this in their main job, but here it's in the sub, and that's fine because, okay. But there's not a ton going on in the sub job other than that. It's just, this is really appropriate because unlike the last unit, you know, which had slash attack resistance penetration, Slarp, in their main job, this unit does not, so this is a lot more interesting. But you know, really we're kind of picking one of these jobs for one effect, so really, do you want this or do you want this? That's kind of how that works. All right, at this rate I may by the time this video is done, I might be able to log in after maintenance. Good grief. Alright, Rafu, the potential waifu, if you like tiny little emo girls of indiscernible age. I mean, seriously, she could be like hundreds of years old, or maybe she's like 20? I don't know. I don't think she's a kid, but like somewhere between 20 and 2000. Let's see, good bit of strike resistance. She could really build to resist the strike team, so she's going to be a problem for strike into the future. Decent for slash, decent for magic. Pretty neutral on elemental resistances. Alright. So we've got hate, we got defense, we've got HP. All I could ask for was like some spirit, maybe. So that's a good buff. It's not ludicrous, but it is definitely, I would say, on par. Yeah, for sure. For sure this is on par with the kind of buff that we saw in Dialdo. So arguably you could say that there's kind of different expectations for what a 100 cost tank has on its passives. Maybe the extra power is put somewhere else, but this is at least on par for the tanks that we've seen so far. Defense and accuracy additionally isn't bad. Agility is always good. Some jump is probably pretty impactful, but I think the agility is probably really good. This actually gets our light resistance to a +2, and magic resistance was kind of a thing that she already did alright, but these mods aren't super high. And in some cases this is going to be really beneficial for you, so it seems like she has a lot of viable secondary passives. So 100% chance to counter slash damage, reduces damage by 20%. Look, do I have to say it? Like, this is really niche, but when your niche is slash damage in a game that is largely about units with swords, yeah, that's this very big niche. And just automatically, at any range, you could throw a sword from across the map. I'm taking 20% less damage. I like that. And that doesn't require any sort of weight of an upgrade or anything like that. Countering all damage with damage. Not bad. Counter magical damage. 20% chance, but reduces damage by 45%. I don't know. Probably not. Probably this, and you try to aim her at this type of team. If you don't, then just let her do some extra damage. She's going to survive to do that maybe multiple times, so have fun with it. Basic attack, also okay. Oh, very short range. Increasing healing power, it's always good on a tank. For one of her buffs, this is going to be a 50% threshold heal. And increase debuff resistance 50%. These two things are quite good together in terms of just being really generally good. You know, this doesn't lean into a particular type of matchup. This is going to work around the clock. Alrighty, this is a very big AoE. Decreases defense and spirit 20. Decreases attack and magic 30. All for 3 turns. Everyone it hits. 165 mod's not huge, but it is a 2-hit move. 3 casts, 37 AP is quite a bit, but that's a lot of breaks. That's a lot of breaks. This is really similar to Charlotte's Limit Break. Except that it also breaks defense and spirit, I think. That's nuts. A chaining version of Charlotte's Limit Break that's multicastable. That is ridiculous. She can dispel Shell, which is relevant for damage. She can also dispel Courage, all on one move. Decent range. I like it. I like it. Oh, wow. 50% general damage barrier for 3 turns. I've already talked about how good these are. 15% light resistance, 15% dark resistance. So that part's a little bit more matchup. Oh, wait. But that gets upgraded with auto revive. So the shield is amazing. Auto revive is amazing. Light and dark resistance are a little mad. The modifiers aren't massive, but it's not bad. You know, 2 out of 4 ain't bad. It also has 2 casts, so anytime you get a 2 cast auto revive, that's always great. And then break single target, break dark resistance 25 with guaranteed hit. Decent modifier, lots of casts. Since she has the ability to stick around longer than most units, like this is also potentially true of Alphons. Having a single target guaranteed hit isn't that bad as long as they get plenty of casts and it's a low AP. So she could slowly work her way through an evasion team if they couldn't take her out quickly enough. Matches happen too fast for Doom to be relevant. Like, if they aren't already dead in 4 turns, you're doing it wrong. I mean, that's a heal. She's not good at it, but she's trying. Alright, Scholar. So defense debuff resistance, which is gonna stack, I believe, with general debuff resistance. Debuff resistance for all elements. 100%. Well, actually, it's kind of irrelevant that they stack because they both go up to 100. So can't break my defense, can't break my elemental resistance. You have a 50% chance if this is stacked with the other buff of not being able to break any other debuffs at all. So slightly redundant together in that this does a lot of those things, but also just kind of a good buff, and they do technically stack. Range and damage. Speed up in general, which could be helpful. Instant. Cast times, instant. I mean, she has plenty of instant options. Not a ton of cast time. CT is always helpful, but that's usually only something you want to do if you don't have a better thing to do, and only if she's going to use it later in her buff order, because you don't want her wasting her time with this skill early on, most likely. But giving her a way to absorb damage through, I've said it before, my favorite skill in Scholar, Law of Geoassimilation, that's just excellent. I love it. Very good. So as we've seen so far, she has a lot of things that lean her physical. She has some things that lean her slash, which is mostly physical. And she has a lot of things that are relatively neutral or just good in general. So leans physical, but really has a lot of potential in general. And like, just very general. Like, it's hard to explain. It's not just good defense and good spirit the way I would have called a previous general tank. If you have a shield that reduces all incoming damage, you can actually reduce the damage from drain force. Whereas if you have a magical shield and a physical shield stacked on top of each other, neither one of them stops drain. Look, I'm just saying, it's bigger than the sum of its parts. She is even better than most generalist tanks already, but she leans physical. So here comes Spellblade. With a buff that's going to give her 38% magic resistance and 20 spirit. Also to allies as a buddy buff. So this would even out some of that and just make her a super fucking general tank. You're not really going to get her to lean anti-magic, but you can get her super generalist through this job. You've got light killer, you've got light killer moves. The higher level light killer for this is also going to be a dispel all debuffs for self, which could be really important for her. Being the unit with being the unit with hate, tanks often can stack debuffs on themselves pretty effectively, so that's a nice one for a tank to have access to. Also, an ability to inflict poison through Bioblade is interesting. It doesn't see a lot of use, but especially for a unit that can kind of wait you out, it's interesting to be able to give them poison. But I think one of the big selling points of this, especially, let me take a second look at the main job. Right. Selling point of this is the part that really follows through on her being a tank, and that's going to be Taunting Spell. This has really good range, which is good because you want her to use it relatively early when she can. It's also going to give you 12 hate. She only starts with 5. She doesn't have any main job ways of getting more. Which, I mean, it's good in the early game. You can really screw with the opposing team early game, but that's going to wear off rather quickly. If you want to re that up and keep your team safer longer, then you're really going to want something like Taunting Spell or finding ways to stack more hate on her at the beginning of the fight. Finally, with a big ol' AoE on it, big ol' modifier too, 69 AP, haha, meme number. Extend Elemental Chain 1 turn for targets. This is going to be really helpful in PvE, but also really enabling for just chaining to get ridiculous. So it's a really good supportive skill to have with your tank. Like, I like it when tanks do breaking for me. I like it when tanks do things that increase my damage, because I know they aren't going to be doing a lot of damage themselves, but if I can follow them up and do a lot of damage off of them, that's great. This is going to accomplish that in a very big AoE pattern, but I also want to return to this other very large AoE pattern skill that she has that decreases defense and spirit, once again doing the same kind of thing that I was talking about there, while making herself and the team a lot safer by decreasing attack and magic. Another way that kind of leans her towards generalist tank. She's not just breaking attack, she's breaking attack and magic. But also, even though she has no interactions with defense herself, she's still breaking defense for the party because she is a team player. It's all an act. She's not as much of an individual. I'm sorry, she's not as much of a fuck. She's not as much of a loner as she likes people to think she is.